Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to point out to you each and every weekday, it expands our base. So, Donald Trump says he's mulling over running for a third term. Now, let's be clear. He can't. The Constitution is very clear, and I want to spend a minute sharing with you what the 22nd Amendment says. First of all, you should know it was passed by Congress on March 12, 1947, and was ratified on February 26, 1951. And the wording of the 22nd Amendment is clear. No person shall be elected to the office of president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than once. But this article shall not apply to any person holding the office of president when this article was proposed by the Congress, and shall not prevent any person who may be holding the office of president or acting as president during that term within which the article becomes operative from holding the office of president or acting as president during the remainder of such terms. Let's be clear. Harry Truman made clear that he could run for president as often as he wanted because the 22nd Amendment did not apply to him. But Donald Trump, here's your wake-up call. The 22nd Amendment does apply to you. One of my favorite books, I absolutely adored this book, is Never Again, A President Runs for a Third Term. Roosevelt versus Willkie, 1940. Herbert Parmet and Marie B. Hecht wrote the book back in 1968. It reflected on the last time there was a third-term candidate for president. And of course, that was Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who not only won a third term, but a fourth term. And the Republicans were so angry that as soon as they controlled the Congress, as soon as they had the opportunity, they pushed through a constitutional amendment, which was ratified by the states, preventing a president of the United States from ever serving more than 2 terms. By the way, that applies to non-consecutive terms as well. So all this speculation is pure nonsense, and it ought to be dismissed out of hand. But let me explain to you that it is an interesting distraction, because the real issue as we approach April 2nd, in just 2 days, will be whether or not the President of the United States imposes tariffs. Does a president constitutionally have the power to impose tariffs? Well, that is a question which has not yet been settled. Remember, the Smoot-Hawley tariff bill of 1930 is what brought us tariffs, which in the end had to be repealed by Congress, as Congress did in 1933. Now, there is an interesting theoretical question here. How much power does a president have? And the answer is a lot. But the Constitution limits the power of the president. The question is, will that be enforced? And one of the most disturbing things imaginable when you read the Constitution, there are no provisions for federal courts. There's a provision for the Supreme Court, but it was Congress that enacted the bill which created federal district courts and appellate courts. Well, now we have the Speaker of the House of Representatives saying publicly that maybe we should just abolish those courts. I have never heard such outrageous, egregious suggestions by a responsible official of the federal government. By the way, third in line for the presidency: the president, the vice president, and then the Speaker of the House. Oh, and of course, the president pro tem of the Senate follows. These are practical realities that need to be understood and considered by the American people, even as the question of foreign policy should be dominating. Should a president of the United States have the audacity or even the authority to suggest that we seize Greenland? Stop and think about it. He's talking about it. Or what about the Panama Canal? Or what about Gaza? And you can go down the list of all of these statements by Donald Trump, which are outrageous. Did I forget the 51st state, Canada? Of course not. I want to spend a moment with you explaining that the powers of the president should not, must not be unchecked. We are not a monarchy. We are a republic. If, as Benjamin Franklin said, we can keep it. Donald Trump is stretching the question of the powers of the president. And I think it is important for all of us to consider with great care what his rhetorical flourishes mean. Some say it's a smokescreen. He's just trying to distract from the real issues that we confront. Others suggest, as Donald Trump himself said, that he's quite serious. This is a matter which the American people need to consider with great care. We are rocked and socked almost every single day with outrageous, egregious statements by the President of the United States. Never in American history have we had a president who has played fast and loose with the Constitution, as Donald Trump is doing. And never before in the history of our country have we had a president of the United States who feels he can rule by fiat, by executive order. It is not a matter of being able to control. It is a matter of considering carefully the implications of having a president who is so abusive of his power. And more directly, what about the Republican Party? Why is there a deafening silence from the Republicans about the outrageous statements by this president? Oh, they're afraid of retribution, all right. No question about it. All you have to do is take a look at what's happening in Wisconsin. Just tomorrow, there will be an election. And, of course, you and I know it is a battle that Elon Musk is stating clearly is a choice between Trump or not Trump. Now, let me tell you something. I hope the voters of Wisconsin stand up in this attempt to pack the Supreme Court of Wisconsin and just say no. There is a clear choice. And even though Elon Musk has sent $1 million checks, 2 of them, to Wisconsin in order to try to influence how the election goes, money should not, must not be allowed to determine the outcome in Wisconsin. These are trying days for those of us who really believe in the Constitution. I am reading a book that I read many years ago by Philip Roth, The Plot Against America. Well, I can tell you that I believe with perfect faith that what Donald Trump is doing is plotting against America. Whether he talks about a third term, or he talks about tariffs, or whether he talks about the powers of the president. This is something we had better confront as a nation. No, Donald Trump won't have a third term, no question about it. But where is the Republican Party? Oh, by the way, you can blame yourselves, Republicans. This talk of a third term was used in part by Republicans when they regretted the fact that Eisenhower, Nixon, Reagan, and indeed Bush could not run for a third term. You know something? These things come back to haunt us. And thank God the Republic still stands. Now, I'm a firm believer that Donald Trump, well, he's an abuser of the Constitution. He has no respect for the Constitution. It's very clear, very precise, and frankly, very disturbing. So, never again will there be a president running for a third term. And hopefully, never again will we have a president of the United States who decides to abuse his power as much as Donald Trump. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which is, of course, our goal. You can interact with me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, or by email, and I'm happy to know what you think, and many of you know that I do try to respond. And of course, special appreciation to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of Around the Political World with John Rothman. Without Gogo, we'd be going nowhere. This is John Rothman. Thanks for tuning in. I will see you tomorrow for another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. See you then.